Hello everyone, Hezu here. Today we're going to talk about Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, the next generation theater play focusing on Albus Severus Potter, Harry Potter's middle child, as the protagonist. Disclaimers. Number 1. I've watched all the movies, but I haven't read the Harry Potter books yet. I still know a lot of book differences, okay? Please don't hurt me. Number 2. What we are reviewing is a playwright, so it's fast-paced and can only do so much. Also, because this is a script, there is very little context or description, which means a lot of meaning behind the words is up to the director and/or actors of the play. For example, take this scene between Albus and Scorpius. Still, if I had to choose a companion to be at the return of eternal darkness with, I'd choose you. No offense, but I'd choose someone massive and really good at magic. There's no indication what emotion Albus expresses here. However, in a scene of the play I passed by online, Scorpius pushes Albus after he says this, and the two laugh in a teasing manner. Because of the lack of direction in the script, it is left up to the actors how they want to portray their characters. This can cause inconsistency between interpretations. That being said, number 3, I didn't see the actual play yet. I wanted to, but the play is badly written, and the pandemic hit, and it's expensive. Plus, Rowling is a TERF, and while I believe indulging in franchises with problematic authors should be allowed and not over-chastised, I still bought the play secondhand. Also keep in mind, in regards to this playwright, Rowling is not the only one to blame for this. Misters John Tiffany and Jack Thorne are equally to blame for this mess. Well, now that that's out of the way, let's summarize the play. I read all 304 pages of this, so let me explain this very convoluted dumpster fire as simplistically as I can. Spoiler alert, this whole video is a spoiler, so if you don't want to be spoiled, then Are you guys actually going to sit down and read this? Yeah? Don't. Okay, here we go. Ahem. Harry Potter has 3 children. The middle child is stuck in his father's shadow and is self-conscious about having to live up to everyone's expectations of him. On the train to Hogwarts, he meets Scorpius Malfoy, his father's Death Eater school rival son. The two become quick best friends. Scorpius Malfoy is sorted into Slytherin, and to everyone's shock, Albus Potter is sorted into Slytherin too. Albus and Scorpius are the center of Hogwarts bullying. Albus, because of his mediocre wizard skills and being the odd one out of the Potter family, and Scorpius because he's a Death Eater's child. But even worse, he's rumored to be the illegitimate child of Voldemort because... why? The two are the bestest of friends, the dorkiest of dorks. Albus's relationship with his father goes to shit, and Scorpius's mom is killed off by the notorious mass murderer J.K. Rowling. Amos Diggory, Cedric Diggory's father, confronts Harry Potter and calls him a murderer because Cedric was murdered by Voldemort? And somehow that's Harry's fault? The Ministry refuses to let him use a time turner to go back in time and save his son. Albus and Amos's niece Delphi overhear this, and Albus comes up with a brilliantly stupid plan to save Cedric Diggory, because... He ropes Scorpius and Delphi into a Polyjuice Potion dumb puzzle ministry raid, and things get weird. The trio snag the time turner, and Albus and Delphi seem to have good chemistry together. Scorpius gets paranoid that Delphi is going to steal his man, and eliminates her from the mission plan. Be gone, fuck! Scorpius and Albus go back in time to save Cedric Diggory and fail. They return to their timeline only to realize they f***ed up. Albus and Scorpius are suddenly thrown into the narrative of Romeo and Juliet as Harry Potter desperately tries to prevent Scorpius from stealing his son off to marry him. Also, Hermione is no longer canon in this timeline, so their daughter Rose doesn't exist. But who frickin' cares? Delphi is somehow unaffected by the timeline and remembers that Scorbus is her OTP and pushes them back together, usurping Harry's trash opinions. Team Scorbus goes back in time again and turns Cedric Diggory's head into a balloon. Cedric is so humiliated, he turns into a Death Eater and kills Neville Longbottom?
What the fuck is going on in here on this day?
Scorpius returns alone to a timeline where Voldemort won. His precious Albus isn't there with him, so he teams up with Snape, Hermione, and Ron to fix the timeline, and they sacrifice themselves so he can return to his future husband. Albus and Scorpius decide to destroy the time turner, and all of a sudden Delphini shows up. Delphi agrees that they should destroy the time turner,
I'll steal it! No one will ever know!
And then she kills some rando and snaps their wands. And they're like, why are you doing this? And she says,
my name is Ebony Darkness Dementia Raven Way, and I have long ebony black hair. That's how I got my name with purple streaks.
Albus and Scorpius are utterly confuzzled and scared, so Albus uses Baby Blanket to summon his father. Then Harry appears, and he's like, it's Voldemort and Bellatrix Lestrange's daughter. And then Harry transforms into Voldemort, and he's like, hiss. And Delphi is like, hiss. And then Harry's like, shit. Delphi then cries, and they capture her and throw her in Azkaban.
This bitch empty!
Albus and Scorpius lean in for a kiss, but then Rowling scrambles up on stage and forces a no-homo potion down Scorpius' throat, and then he confesses to Rose, who spits in his face and kicks him in his shins. And then Harry hugs his son and tells him he loves him. The end. Okay, I might have gone a little off the rails here, but that's basically what happened. Alrighty guys, take out your magnifying glasses. Time to analyze this shiz. Let's start off with things I liked. While not the ideal format, the writers challenged the play directors into not only directing a play, but also technically a magic show, which is tricky. I might not have seen it myself just yet, but there are descriptive magical feats in here that are undoubtedly difficult to perform on stage. This addition to the franchise breaks the mold and shows a different side to the Slytherin house, instead of just being the evil bigot club of the school. The implications of the new trio are ironically funny and intricately woven together. I mean, Delphini Riddle, daughter of Death Eater Bellatrix Lestrange and Dark Lord Voldemort, and Scorpius Malfoy, son of ex-Death Eater's school rival Draco Malfoy, are best friends with the son of their family's arch nemesis, Harry Potter. This is hilarious. I love it. I actually like Harry and Albus's strained relationship. Harry Potter is a childhood abuse victim and war veteran with trauma, and his son is a bullied, inadequate outcast whose problems are often rooted from his relation to Harry. Neither of them know what it's like to be in each other's shoes, which causes a rift between them. They need to realize that their trauma and misfortunes are not a competition, but an invitation to understand each other. Do you want a hand? Packing? I always loved packing. It meant I was leaving Privet Drive and going back to Hogwarts, which was, well, I know you don't love it, but for you, it's the greatest place on earth. I know. The poor orphan, bullied by his uncle and Aunt Dursley. Albus, please, can we just— traumatized by his cousin Dudley, saved by Hogwarts. I know it all, Dad. Blah, blah, blah. I'm not gonna rise to your bait, Albus Potter. The poor orphan who went on to save us all. So may I say, on behalf of wizarding kind, how grateful we are for your heroism. Should we bow now, or will a curtsy do? Albus, please. You know I've never wanted gratitude, but right now I'm overflowing with it. It might be the kind gift of this moldy blanket that did it. Moldy blanket? What did you think would happen? We'd hug? I'd tell you I always loved you? What? What? You know what? I'm done with being made responsible for your unhappiness. At least you've got a dad, because I didn't, okay? What, and you think that was unlucky? I don't. You wish me dead? No. I just wish you weren't my dad. Well, there are times I wish you weren't my son. No, I didn't mean that. Yes. Yes, you did. No luck or love for me, then. Albus, please. The sometimes I wish you weren't my son scene was a heat-of-the-moment thing that, frankly, I can't put it past Harry to say when he's angry. I mean, many believed Harry would never say that to his family after all he's suffered. You know, that's valid. I just shrug indifferently to it. Draco has an okay part in the play. He's a protective father of Scorpius and is always looking out for him. Most of the time he's bothering Harry to put a stop to the rumors about Scorpius being Voldemort's son, which leads to some unnecessary fight scenes between him and Harry. I was under the impression that they reconciled after the war, but apparently not. Also, the Scorpius being Voldemort's son plotline doesn't make any sense, so a lot of these bickering scenes with Draco are very forced. And despite how annoying that can be, Draco does reconcile with the main trio in the end, which was nice to see. I always envied you then, you know? Weasley and Granger. I had Crabbe and Goyle. Two lunks who wouldn't know one end of broomstick from another. You, the three of you, you shone, you know? You liked each other. You had fun. I envied you those friendships more than anything else. I envied them too. Your solidity is admirable, but it doesn't make your negligence negligible. Then it's negligence I too should face. Hermione and Harry have done nothing wrong, but try and protect us all. If they're guilty, then I am too. Draco also marries a muggle-loving Astoria Greengrass and defends her from his father Lucius. This helps further redeem his character, and he and Astoria have Scorpius because they wanted him for a family, not out of obligation or pureblood tradition. It's a wonderful start to the new age of the Malfoys. I'm obsessed with Delphi's potential as a character, which I will go into detail over later. Also, look how cute her actor is. The alternate timeline plot causes nothing but problems for this play, but there is a single moment where Severus Snape learns that Harry Potter's son is named after him, and he says, "I'm glad Albus Potter carries my name," which gave me emotions. Fun fact, I consider Severus Snape from the movies different from the version of him in the books. I know there's controversy over Harry naming his son Albus Severus, but I still found this moment to be weighted with importance. Far into the play, Harry speaks with Dumbledore's picture in his office, and Harry confronts him for leaving him at the Dursleys, abandoning him to hunt Horcruxes without guidance, and raising him to die at Voldemort's hand in the war. And Dumbledore confesses he didn't want to get attached to Harry and profusely apologizes to him. And despite it all, the two come to see each other as family, and I just... Which one of you wrote this? I want to know. This is a good scene and you deserve your proper credit. The invisibility cloak was passed on to James since he's the eldest, but Albus actually steals it from him. I think this adds some complex depth to Albus's character. He's sneaky, conniving, and smart, not afraid to get his hands a little dirty, especially against his teasing older sibling. And I also think it's more suitable in Albus's hands, considering how much he wants to disappear from the limelight. I half expected James to straight up give it to him out of pity. So I thank the writers for managing to get this hollow into Albus's hands. The title, Cursed Child, could be referenced to a multitude of characters. Albus Potter could be the cursed child for being the Potter runt of the family, and also being responsible for destroying the timeline and by proxy killing his father. Scorpius Malfoy could be the cursed child because he was falsely rumored to be Voldemort's child and was cursed to a life of solitude. His mother also died of a blood curse early on into his life, which I found annoying. I don't think Astoria should have been killed. Make her comatose or something. Stop killing the moms, writers. Does this mean Scorpius could die from this blood curse? Could he pass this on to his children? I feel like this is pretty messed up. And Delphi could be the cursed child because she is Voldemort's daughter who indirectly causes this whole mess and is cursed to an orphaned life unfulfilled and lonely. It's just a lot of unique interpretations of the title. And, I think that does it for the things I liked about the play. So, let's get to the good part. Things I didn't like. Retcons, aka, that's not how that works. There are 4 retcons in this play. The biggest and most obvious one is time travel. It's supposed to be contained in a loop, and usually you can only go back a couple hours. The play addresses this by saying this time turner is different. Oh, you know, technology these days, so different, so advanced. Don't question it. Even near the end of the play, Albus and Scorpius are stuck in time, and when they send a message to Harry, Draco pulls out a Deus Ex Machina time turner that just so happens to be the same New Age special kind, which magically saves the day. During one of the timeline changes, Harry turns into a jerk. I need you to stay away from Scorpius Malfoy. What? Scorpius? I don't know how you became friends in the first place, but you did. And now I need to— My best friend. My only friend. He's dangerous. Scorpius? Dangerous? Have you met him? Dad, if you honestly think he's the son of Voldemort— I don't know what he is, I just know you need to stay away from him. There's a map used to be used for those wanting to get up to no good. Now we're going to use it to keep an eye, a permanent eye, on you.
Professor McGonagall will watch your every movement. Anytime you are seen together, she'll come flying. I expect you to go to lessons, none of which you will now share with Scorpius, and between times you will stay in the Gryffindor common room. If she finds you with Scorpius, I will fix you with a spell, which will allow me eyes and ears into your every movement, your every conversation. In the meantime, investigations will begin in my department as to his true heritage. But Dad, you can't... That's just not... I thought for a long time I wasn't a good enough dad for you because you didn't like me. It's only now I realize that I don't need you to like me. I need you to obey me because I'm your dad and I do know better. I'm sorry, Albus. It has to be this way. Albus, you're okay. That's fantastic. He's completely cured, and we've got to go. Are you mad at me? What's going on? Did it work? Did any of it work? No, but Albus, whatever gibberish you're talking, you need to stop it now. This is your final warning. This map will reveal to you where my son is at all times. I expect you to use it, and if I hear you don't, then I will come down on this school as hard as I can, using the full force of the Ministry. Is that understood?
What the fuck happened to you, man?
Also, and I kid you not, in the alternate timeline where the Dark Lord wins, he makes a Voldemort Day where his followers do something called a V-dance in his honor. Who thought this was a good idea? Oh, and a bonus retcon with this whole time travel plot is the sweet elderly trolley witch being some creepy, horrific guardian monster that prevents children from leaving the train. Creepy, weird, and completely unnecessary. But shockingly enough, this lady is the least of our problems. Retcon number 2, Harry has this weird attachment to a baby blanket. I checked with my friends, and this isn't in the books. This is from me. An old blanket. I thought a lot about what to give you this year. James has been going on about the invisibility cloak since time itself, and Lily, I knew she'd love wings, but you're 14 years old now, Albus, and I wanted to give you something which meant something. This is the last thing I had from my mum, the only thing. I was given to the Dursleys wrapped in it. Dudley found this and he kindly sent it to me, and ever since then, well, anytime I've wanted luck, I've found it and just tried to hold it and wondered if you... believe Petunia wanted me to have it. That's why she kept it. And now I want you to have it from me. I didn't really know my mother, but I think she'd have wanted you to have it too. And maybe I could come find you and it on Hallows Eve. I'd like to be with it on the night they died, and that could be good for the two of us. Albus, I want you to have the blanket. Okay, first of all, giving your edgy 14-year-old son a baby blanket from your dead parents is absolute cringe, Harry. Like, this is the embodiment of a guilt trip, and for you to not see that is wildly ludicrous of you. Second of all, head horror snitch-catching war hero Harry Potter suddenly being obsessed with a 30-year-old baby blanket that didn't even exist or matter to him prior in the series is really weird. And third of all, this baby blanket is written into the story as a prominent plot device. Get this, love potion is spilled on it, and when Albus and Scorpius get stuck in time, they remember this convoluted potion ingredients fact and use the love potion mixture to send a message on the blanket to Harry in the future, so Draco can use his Deus Ex Machina time turner to come save them.
How convenient is that? Wow, how convenient is fucking that?
The technical third retcon was actually misunderstood and debunked by me. See, at some point in the play, Harry is turned into Voldemort to trick Delphi. Before I fully read the play myself, I heard they might have used a polyjuice potion, and I became very, very confused because Voldemort is bald. Where the hell would they get the hair? Or like, what? Was Harry keeping a piece of his skin preserved in a jar the past 15 years or something? But no, thankfully, I found out it wasn't polyjuice. They actually transfigure him into Voldemort, which apparently is possible, and it doesn't last long, so This leads into my fourth retcon. Retcon number 4, Harry regains his ability to speak Parseltongue and even gets Voldemort dreams like he did in the past. None of this should be happening because Harry is no longer a Horcrux. He lost these abilities. The play acknowledges this and just sort of shrugs and says, oh, it's probably because the boys are messing with the timeline or whatever, so they can use it to defeat Delphi. On one hand, this is cheap writing. On the other hand, I actually really like the idea of Harry retaining his Parseltongue ability. Parseltongue didn't necessarily mean you had to be related to the Slytherin bloodline, and Dumbledore in the movie, not sure about the books, said himself,
But magic, especially dark magic, leaves traces.
and Harry touches the un-Horcrux ring and receives flashbacks of new Horcrux locations and memories despite the fact that it's dead. I actually would really love it if Parseltongue infected the Potter bloodline like a recessive curse. Like, maybe Albus gains the ability to speak it from his father, who got it from Voldemort, which would cause Albus further reputation damage along with more comparisons between him and Tom Riddle in the play, which I'm very excited to get into later. But that's just my 2 cents. Characters. Teddy Lupin is weirdly non-existent in this play. Almost no mention of him anywhere. No scene of him anywhere. I thought he was supposed to be Harry Potter's godson, but he was instead raised by his grandmother, Andromeda. I think in the books, Teddy is rather close with the Potter family, so I don't understand where he is. Since he's older than Harry's biological children, he no longer attends Hogwarts, but I thought he'd at least get a cameo. And he is Delphi's cousin. Those two are the same age. Bellatrix and Andromeda had a falling out since Andromeda proved to be a blood traitor. I think it would be kind of cute if their children ended up meeting and becoming friends unbeknownst to their mother's bad blood. He was also a Hufflepuff head boy. As a Hufflepuff myself, I feel a little cheated that we always get the short end of the stick with representation. Just where the heck is Teddy Lupin? Amos and Cedric Diggory. So most of this play is centered around saving Cedric Diggory. His father, Amos, has pleaded and criticized Harry to go back in time and save his son, but Harry refuses. Amos is an old man stuck in a retirement home, stricken with grief and animosity towards the Potter family, blaming them for his misery and the death of his son. And when it comes to Cedric, oh boy. So, how Albus and Scorpius go about saving Cedric, they think the best way is to sabotage him early on in the Triwizard Tournament. First task, they fail. Second task, they turn his head into a balloon. This honest, fair, kind Hufflepuff of a boy is so embarrassed. He turns into a freaking Death Eater and kills Neville Longbottom, which in turn makes Voldemort win the war? Excuse me? Who the heck gets tripped by some random person at school and suddenly says, I guess I'm racist now? I better go join that terrorist cult I've heard so much about? What the fuck? On the third task, when Delphi reveals herself, she says that Scorpius and Albus were on the right track to humiliate Cedric into becoming a Death Eater. So she says,
I don't want you to just stop him. I want you to humiliate him. He needs to fly out of that maze naked on a broomstick made of purple feather dusters. Humiliation got you there before, and it'll get us there again. And the prophecy will be fulfilled.
this is so stupid. Ginny Weasley and the Useless Spouse Club. Ginny is just a concerned wife and mother. She just stands there.
Hang on, I gotta wake up at 3 a.m. to comfort my PTSD-ridden husband from his dead ex-soulmate nightmares he's spontaneously getting again.
Wasn't she supposed to have a firecracker personality in the books? She was a chaser and a seeker at Hogwarts and joined the Holyhead Harpies as a professional Quidditch player, and yet she can't seem to seek and find her son?
Has anyone seen my son? Oh, God. Timmy! That mother's adrenaline is kicking in. Timmy! I can see every equation. Excuse me, ma'am. Have you seen my son? He's about this tall, clearly gay, but we haven't had the talk. Timmy, are you in there? Timmy!
Other members of the Useless Spouse Club include Astoria Greengrass, a loving, pure mother subjected to the dead mom trope. And the third member would be Ronald Bilious Weasley, who just sort of exists, and is annoying, and is also a clown. On Ron's Wikipedia page, it says he had a sardonic, wisecracking sense of humor that often brought his friends laughter and relaxation. So that's definitely different from the movies and the Ron I know, because if memory serves, he became a boring jerk after the Goblet of Fire. His wife Hermione is Minister of Magic, Harry is Head Auror. It says Ron became an Auror with Harry for a few years, but then he left to become a comedian and took over his brother's Weasley Wheezes shop. Personally, I find both positions of Aurorship and clown shop comedian to be inappropriate for his character. I just don't see it. Either way, he's in someone's shadow. Nothing has changed for him. And that also shows in his relationship to Hermione. Many people, including J.K. Rowling herself, didn't support Hermione. This relationship, in the movies, not sure about the books, just didn't work for me. They were always bickering at each other as they got older, and they just didn't have anything in common. The chemistry wasn't there, especially when Hermione took over a lot of Ron's lines and closer friendship role to Harry in the movies. In the play, there's a canon scenario that makes me want to rip my hair out. All the 4 Triwizard Champions took a partner. Your dad took Pavati, Victor Crumb took Hermione, and Ron got jealous and behaved like a prat. Only he didn't. I found Rita Skeeter's book about them, and it's very different. Ron took Hermione to the ball. What? As friends. And they danced in a friendly way, and it was nice, and then he danced with Padma Patil, and that was nicer, and they started dating, and he changed a bit, and they got married, and meanwhile, Hermione became a psychopath. Hermione was supposed to go to that ball with Crumb. Do you know why she didn't? Because she had suspicions the 2 strange Durmstrang boys she met before the first task was somehow involved in the disappearance of Cedric's wand. She believed we, under Victor Crumb's orders, caused Cedric the first task. And without Crumb, Ron never got jealous. And that jealousy was all important, and so Ron and Hermione stayed very good friends but never fell in love, never got married, never had Rose. Ron actually asks Hermione to go to the ball with him kindly, and they dance together like a normal couple. Apparently, they found this boring, and Ron went off to marry another woman. Meanwhile, Hermione, because she's not married to Ron, never finds another man, snaps, and becomes Severus Snape 2.0. Excuse me, sexist much? Ron and Hermione need toxic jealousy in order for their relationship to work? No, they don't. Hermione needs to be married to Ron to become Minister for Magic? No, she doesn't. What the hell? It seems their daughter Rose caught this horrible relationship taste because she treats Scorpius Malfoy like garbage, and for some reason this idiot is still smitten with her. Ron doesn't even remember their wedding because of how drunk he got. I mean, he says he wants to remarry Hermione sober now, which I guess is sweet, but this is such bad writing. Oh, and the love potion scene. Okay, so some of you are probably going to think I'm overanalyzing this, but I'm gonna say this anyway because it disturbs me. Early on in the play, the Potter children are returning to Hogwarts, and their Uncle Ron presents them with gifts. He gives Lily farting gnomes, James gets a comb that turns his hair pink, but Ron gives Albus Potter a love potion. Number 1, giving your odd one out, bad reputation, shy Slytherin nephew a love potion of all things is a form of pity and gross manipulation, one of which I find hard to believe Ron is capable of. 2, after what happened to you in the Half-Blood Prince should be all the more reason not to give literally anyone you know a love potion. 3, Albus Potter, as I will explain later, shares many similarities between Tom Riddle, aka Voldemort. Giving Albus a love potion is especially sickening if you remember that Voldemort's mother drugged his father with a love potion and raped him to have Voldemort.
Any children conceived under the guise of a love potion are born with dangerous sociopathy. Considering the similarities, what Ron just did has crossed into multi-layered messed up territory. Though it may be possible only Harry knows about Voldemort's conception and didn't tell anyone, so Ron might not know this. Correct me if I'm wrong. Either way, treating a non-consensual drug like it's a simple fedora and rose that you're giving to your nephew is not the same thing whatsoever. Mind you, the whole reason this love potion even comes up is for the dumb blanket scene I mentioned earlier, which is equally unnecessary. I can't be the only one that noticed this, right? I swear it's been driving me crazy. Well, let's move on and talk about the only person Albus would even use a love potion on but never needed to. Scorpius Hyperion Malfoy. Scorpius Malfoy is a geeky, heartfelt kid who loves sweets and bread. He's also in no way a bigot and is actually a huge fan of Harry Potter. A nice change from his father.
Would you like some of my fizzy whizbies? I've also got some choco chalk, pepper imps, and some jelly slugs. Mum's idea. She says, sweets, they always help you make friends. Albus Severus Potter, get that strange look out of your eye. First question. What do you know about the Triwizard Tournament? Ooh, a quiz! 3 schools pick 3 champions to compete in 3 tasks for 1 cup. What's that got to do with anything? You really are an enormous geek, you know that? Yeah, Have you seen the books on these shelves? There's some serious books here. Banned books. Cursed books. How to distract Scorpius from difficult emotional issues. Take him to the library. Well, there's no time for a tour. We have a murderous witch to save the world from. But regard the church, St. Jerome's. It's magnificent. And St. Jerome's graveyard is supposedly magnificently haunted. And that's where the statue of Harry and his parents will be. And this house is where Bathilda Bagshot lives. The Bathilda Bagshot? A history of magic, Bathilda Bagshot? The very same. Oh my, that's her. Wow, squeak, my geekiness is a-quivering. Scorpius. I mentioned earlier that they kill off his mom because of a genetic blood curse. They really just killed her off to take away his support so he can have a tense home life and more interaction with his dad. I think she should have just been sick or comatose, not fully offed. That just upsets me. Scorpius also has this weird crush on Rose Weasley, who absolutely hates his guts and treats him like garbage. This was a weird character trait of his that we could do without. I'll go into more detail about this mess later. Scorpius, actually, at some point, calls out Albus for how selfish he is and how he was mistreating Scorpius. Seeing Scorpius stand up for himself and not support Albus's brash behavior for once was very nice character growth that I approve of. Scorpius is the only one to actually suspect Delphi. He protects Albus from Amos and stands by him and follows after him. It's very courageous, which is very unlike the Malfoy family. I think he's bringing his family name new glory with his actions and loyalty. I was worried that he'd lose his importance or would sort of just get dragged along by Albus, but I was pleasantly surprised that they handled his character arc pretty well for most of the play. I think his role as best friend was well written enough for me to be satisfied with. Something annoying in his arc, however, he's rumored to be Voldemort's son, and it has no merit or logic to it. Scorpius has the classic Malfoy hair, and he was born almost a decade after Voldemort's death. If the writers wanted to give Scorpius a bad rep plot, his father was a Death Eater. Don't understand why it needed to be upgraded to Voldemort. It's not like anyone suspects Delphi is Voldemort's daughter this early in the play anyway, so you don't need to throw us off. Even if this is a hint, foreshadowing of Delphi being the Dark Lord's daughter so it won't come across as an out of nowhere when she's later revealed, the fandom is still very unaccepting of her role in the franchise. Ironically, the closest person to being Voldemort's son would be Albus Severus Potter. Albus Severus Potter is insecure. In some ways, he's a liar. He's cunning, handsome, keeps to himself, and has a poor relationship with his father. But deep down, he just wants to be accepted, praised, and loved. Albus Potter is like Tom Riddle. If Riddle's father had raised him, if Riddle had friends, and if Riddle wasn't a bigot and didn't have sociopathy via love potion by proxy, you could get someone like Al. Albus Potter is even compared to Tom Riddle in the play itself. Green is a soothing color, isn't it? I mean, Gryffindor rooms are all well and good, but the trouble with red is... it is said to send you a little mad. You've divined something? There's a black cloud around your son. A dangerous black cloud. A Around Albus? A black cloud that may endanger us all. I was alone, and it sent me to a truly dark place. For a long time, Tom Riddle was also a lonely child. Tom Riddle didn't emerge from his dark place, and so Tom Riddle became Lord Voldemort. Maybe the black cloud Bane saw was Albus's loneliness, his pain, his hatred. Don't lose the boy. You'll regret it. And so will he, because he needs you, and Scorpius. A young Harry is left holding the sheets, and the stage contorts and trees rise as the dream twists into something else entirely. Suddenly, from within the trees, Albus appears and stands looking at young Harry, and then he's pulled hard away, to be replaced by a Parseltongue whispers reverberating around the theater. He's coming. Words that's said in an unmistakable voice. The voice of Voldemort. Harry Potter. Do you still see with my eyes, Harry Potter? Young Harry exits, disturbed, as Albus bursts from within Voldemort's cloak. He reaches out a desperate hand towards his dad. Dad! Dad! There are some words spoken in Parseltongue. He's coming. He's coming. And Albus, the unseen child who will kill his father by rewriting time, and so returns the Dark Lord. I think it's ironic that Harry Potter's most favorite and troubled child would be the representative of his old arch-nemesis. But it's also clear Albus is very different from Tom Riddle. Albus may be selfish and dry-humored at times, but his relationship with Scorpius Malfoy and Delphini Diggory is genuine and sweet. That being said, Albus Potter is clearly bisexual and none of you can change my mind. I mean, he's clearly interested in Delphi. Expelliarmus! Delphi's wand flies through the air. You're getting it now. You're good at this. She takes her wand back from him, in a posh voice. You're a positively disarming young man. Expelliarmus! Her wand flies back again. And we have a winner! The two high-five. I've never been good at spells. I was rubbish, and then something clicked. And it will for you too. Not that I'm a super witch or anything, but I think you've become quite some wizard, Albus Potter. Then you should stick around. Teach me more. Of course I'm sticking around. We're friends, aren't we? Yes, definitely friends. Definitely. Great. Whistle! The first task is getting a golden egg from a dragon. How did Cedric distract the dragon? Delphi puts her hand in the air. Albus grins and points at her. These two are getting on really well now. Hang on, where are your robes? Albus, I'm flattered, but I don't think I can pretend to be a student, do you? I'll just keep in the background and pretend to be... Oh, maybe I could pretend to be a dragon tamer. You're doing all the spell stuff anyway. She smiles. She looks at Albus. She leans down and gently kisses him on both cheeks. She walks away into the woodland. Albus stares after her. Are you okay, Albus? You look a little pale. And red. Pale and red at the same time. Let's do this. There's a lot to understand. Dad's pretty complicated. And you're not? Not to question your taste in women, but you fancied, well, they both know who he's talking about. I did, didn't I? Albus sits beside his mom. I liked her, Mum. You know that? I really liked her. Delphi. And she was Voldemort's daughter. But his relationship with Scorpius? Oh boy, sit down, children. We've got a lot of reading ahead of us. Hi, is this compartment... It's free. It's just me. Great, so we might just come in for a bit, if that's okay? That's okay. Hi. Albus. My name is Albus. Hi, Scorpius. I'm Scorpius. You're Albus. Would you like some of my fizzy whizbees? I'll have some. Mom doesn't let me have sweets. Which one would you start with? Easy. I've always regarded the Pepper Imp as the king of the confectionery bag. They're peppermint sweets that make you smoke at the ears. Brilliant. Then that's what I'll have. Slytherin? Whoa, a Potter in Slytherin? Albus looks out, unsure. Scorpius smiles, delighted, as he shouts across to him. You can stand next to me! Albus walks up a staircase, looking around as he does. He doesn't see anything. He exits. The staircases move in almost a dance. Scorpius enters behind him. He thinks he's seen Albus, realizes he isn't there. He slumps down to the floor as the staircase sweeps around. Madame Hooch enters and walks up the staircase. At the top, she gestures for Scorpius to move. He does, and slopes off, his abject loneliness clear.
Albus enters and walks up one staircase. Scorpius enters and walks up another. The staircases meet. The two boys look at each other, lost and hopeful, all at once. And then Albus looks away and the moment is broken. And with it, possibly, the friendship. And now the staircases part. The two look at each other, one full of guilt, the other full of pain, both full of unhappiness. Albus finally gets the upper hand and pins Scorpius to the ground.
Well, I wasn't a loser before I met you. Albus, whatever you've got to prove to your dad, this isn't the way. Sometimes I find myself thinking, maybe they're true too. No, they're not true. And I'll tell you why. Because I don't think Voldemort is capable of having a kind son. And you're kind, Scorpius. To the depths of your belly, to the tips of your fingers. I truly believe Voldemort couldn't have had a child like you.
Scorpius is moved by this.
That's a nice thing to say. And it's something I should have said a long time ago. And you couldn't hold me back. You make me stronger, and when Dad forced us apart without you, I didn't much like my life without you in it either.
Albus smiles and stretches out a hand.
Friends? Always.
Scorpius extends his hand. Albus pulls Scorpius up into a hug.
That's the second time you've done that.
The two boys break apart and smile.
I've been looking for you everywhere, and now you found me. Ta-da! I was hardly hiding. You know how I like to get on early.
Albus hugs his friend with fierceness. They hold for a beat. Scorpius is surprised by this.
Okay, hello. Have we hugged before? Do we hug?
The two boys awkwardly dislocate.
Just a slightly weird 24 hours. I want us to save Cedric. Okay, whatever was holding your brain together seems to have snapped. I'm going to do this, Scorpius. I need to do this. And you know as well as I do, I'll entirely mess it up if you don't come with me. Come on.
He grins, and then disappears, ever up. Scorpius hesitates for a moment. He makes a face. But he knows what he has to do. What he's going to do. He hoists himself up and disappears after Albus.
Right, me next. No way, Jose. If we're doing this, we're doing it together. He puts on a pair of familiar-looking glasses with a smile. 3, 2, 1.
They swallow on cue.
This is going to be slightly weird, isn't it? Go to your room. Go straight to your room. You've been an incredibly awful and bad son. Scorpius.
Scorpius appears at the back of the stage. He looks at his friend talking to a girl. A part of him likes it, and a part of him doesn't. Scorpius isn't enjoying the Delphi-Albus double act. She leans down and gently kisses him on both cheeks. She walks away into the woodland. Albus stares after her.
She didn't kiss me. Did you notice? From the moment I first heard of it, I was desperate to go. And then you got there and it turned out to be terrible after all. Not for me.
Albus looks at his friend, shocked.
All I ever wanted was to go to Hogwarts and have a mate to get up to mayhem with, just like Harry Potter. And I got his son. How crazy fortunate is that? But I'm not like my dad. I know. You're better. You're my best friend, Albus.
Albus looks at Scorpius and smiles.
You're my best friend too. And that's why Cedric has to wait. It's all become quite confused, and you're entirely right to keep hold of the time turner, Scorpius. But what I meant was, someone's got to do something about the two of you. Oh. You're best friends. Every owl he sends, I can feel your absence. He's destroyed by it. Sounds like he's found a shoulder to cry on. How many owls has he sent you now?
Delphi smiles softly.
Sorry, I didn't mean... I just don't understand what's going on. I've tried to see him, talk to him, but every time I do, he just runs off.
Albus needs you, Scorpius. That's a wonderful thing.
He needs me to do what?
That's the thing, isn't it? About friendships. You don't know what he needs. You only know he needs it. Find him, Scorpius. You two, you belong together.
A Dementor swoops down low over them and settles in front of Scorpius. Think of something else, Scorpius. Occupy your thoughts. But Scorpius can't occupy his thoughts. I feel cold. I can't see. There's a fog inside me, around me. Think about those you love. Think about why you're doing this. Listen to me, Scorpius. Think about Albus. You're giving up your kingdom for Albus, right?
Scorpius is helpless, consumed by all the Dementors making him feel. Snape knows he needs to open his heart to save him. One person. All it takes is one person. When the Dementors were inside my head, Severus Snape told me to think of you. You may not have been there, Albus, but you were fighting alongside me. Albus nods, touched by this. There is a moment of pure calm. And then Albus ascends after Scorpius. There's a silence. Scorpius just looks at Albus, disbelieving. Both boys breathe in and out. Whoa! An impenetrable smile grows across Scorpius's face. Albus! That was close. Did you see that merman? The guy with the... and then the thing with the... Whoa! It's you! You have no idea how good it is to see you again. You just saw me 2 minutes ago. Scorpius hugs Albus in the water, a difficult task. A lot has happened since then. Careful, you're drowning me. What are you wearing? What am I wearing? He pulls off his cloak. What are you wearing? Yes, you're in Slytherin. Did it work? Did we do anything? No, and it's brilliant. What? We failed. Yes, and it's amazing! He splashes hard in the water. Albus pulls himself out of the bank. Scorpius, have you been eating too many sweets again? There you go. You see, all dry humor and Albusy. I love it. I'll have to force you by other means. She takes out her wand. She points it at Albus, who sticks his chin out. Do your worst. Delphi looks at him, and then she turns her wand on Scorpius. I will. No. Yes, as I thought. This seems to frighten you more. Albus, whatever she does to me, we can't let her. Crucio! Scorpius yells out in pain. You want me to stop hurting your only friend? Then do what you're told. She looks at Albus. His eyes stay resistant. No. Crucio! Stop, please. It took me a long time to discover your weakness, Albus Potter. I thought it was pride. I thought it was the need to impress your father. But then I realized your weakness was the same as your father's. Friendship. You will do exactly as you're told, otherwise Scorpius will die. Just like that spare did. Once Delphi has set time the way she wants, she'll send armies to try and find us. Kill us. So we hide in a hole? As pleasurable as it will be to hide in a hole with you for the next 40 years. They'll find us. We need something we can control, something we know he'll get at exactly the right time. There's nothing. Still, if I had to choose a companion to be at the return of eternal darkness with, I'd choose you. No offense, but I'd choose someone massive and really good at magic. Scorpius reaches in and hugs Albus. What's this? I thought we decided we don't hug. I wasn't sure whether we should, in this new version of us I had in my head. Better ask Rose if it's the right thing to do. Yeah, right. The two boys dislocate and grin at each other. Can you believe they wrote this? I can't. Don't they realize how gay this is? This is incredible. Congratulations, J.K. Rowling. You played yourself. Some people may think what Scorpius and Albus have is platonic, but I beg to differ.
Hey, Dad.
Hey, son, how's the 4th year going? Is it treating you right?
Well, it was traumatizing.
Great, how's your boyfriend?
Not my boyfriend, but that's not important now. I want to talk to you about something that's on my mind.
Guys, if I had to put up with this, and this, then you sure as hell can put up with this. J.K. Rowling, after the Harry Potter series finished and Albus Dumbledore was murdered, said she always believed that the old headmaster was gay.
There's been some breaking news. J.K. Rowling's revealed today that Dumbledore is gay. What do you think about that?
Someone just told me this. Can you explain this in somewhat? How do you mean she outed Dumbledore?
I think she was doing a talk in New York and she's said that he's gay and he's had a big unrequited love his whole life. That's his life's great tragedy.
Well, strike me down. I have to admit, I didn't see it coming. Another great twist, if anything, in the books. But it's news to my ears by any means. I haven't heard that yet, so I'll be looking forward to seeing what other people make of it.
Did you ever spot any clues suggesting he might be gay?
Not at all. Not at all. I mean, I think everyone agreed that Richard Harris and Michael Gambon are quite a straight character. I don't think there's any hidden rift behind that, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I didn't look deeply enough into it.
I do feel I have some duty on a personal level as well, because I've always had my own suspicions about this. Dumbledore being gay.
I thought you were going to ask something completely. Yeah, go on.
Dumbledore being gay.
Yeah. Well,
was that something that was just thrown out for the American press to get them stirred up a bit? No.
So it did.
So it did, which is obviously was very funny. But
yeah, but at this point, I've been with him for 7 years. I knew he was gay. I just knew he was gay.
Okay.
And to me, it was not a big deal. And his gayness is not really. It's not really relevant.
Not only was Dumbledore a gay wizard and supposedly in love with Grindelwald, but the director of the Fantastic Beasts series stated that Dumbledore's relationship with Grindelwald will not be explicitly made clear, which only further upset people because their representation was taken away from them. She even goes on to say their relationship with one another was incredibly intense and had dimension? All talk, no show. Not that that last part needs to be shown, of course. Albus Dumbledore was a gay wizard who was deeply in love with his childhood friend. The two had a falling out and in the end had to fight each other. And Albus became so distressed by his lack of judgment that he lived a celibate life and loved no other for the rest of his days. Also, J.K. Rowling making Dumbledore asexual by traumatic proxy is not a good representation for the ace community, and I'd highly recommend you rewording what you said, by the way.
Albus Severus Potter.
You were named after the gayest wizard who ever lived. Severus Snape has two different depictions. In the books, he's terrible and obsessive. In the movies, I see him as a different person who suffered heavy bullying and unrequited love with Lily Potter and came to love her son despite their animosity towards each other. In the end, Severus dedicated the rest of his life to love and even died for it.
Don't tell me now that you've grown to care for the boy. Really? After all this time?
Always.
Stay close to me.
Always.
Friends. Always. Albus Potter was not only named after the gayest wizard of all time, he was also named after the man who had a deep-seated love for his childhood best friend. The Cursed Child play is about breaking the mold, changing things, being different from their predecessors. It's riddled with parallels and new unexplored relationships. It may not have worked for them, but why not let it work for him? Albus Potter and Scorpius Malfoy were so bi for each other, even Delphi knew it. You two, you belong together. Oh, the writers dug themselves into a hole with this one. At some point, they must have realized this and panicked, because at the very end of the play, they force in this terrible bit of romance. I can't quite believe I did that. I can't quite believe you did that either. Rose Granger-Weasely. I asked out Rose Granger-Weasely, and she said no. But I asked her. I planted the acorn that will grow into our eventual marriage. You are aware that you're an utter fantasist, and I'd agree with you. Only Polly Chapman did ask me to the school ball. In an alternate reality where you were significantly, really significantly, more popular, a different girl asked you out, and that means... And yes, logic would dictate I should be pursuing Polly or allowing her to pursue me. She's a notorious beauty, after all, but a rose is a rose. You know, logic would dictate that you're a freak. Rose hates you. Correction, she used to hate me, but did you see the look in her eyes when I asked? That wasn't hate, that was pity. And pity's good? Pity is a start, my friend, a foundation on which to build a palace of love. Rose is going to take years to persuade. Scorpius Malfoy asks out Rose Weasley. Granted, a girl he was smitten with, but for no good reason, because she treated him like absolute dirt and refused to interact with him. And not only does she reject him, but Scorpius thinks he can wear her down into going out with him? No means no, Scorpius. What the hell? You're not gonna wear her down. You need to let this go. She is not interested in you. But then, like, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, she comes in and she smiles at him and says... Rose comes past them on the stairs. She looks at them both. Hi. Neither boy knows quite how to reply. She looks at Scorpius. This is only going to be weird if you let it be weird. Received and entirely understood. Okay. Scorpion King. She walks off with a smile on her face. Scorpius and Albus look at each other. Albus grins and punches Scorpius on the arm. Maybe you're right. Pity is a start. Scorpion King.
Scorpion King? Scorpion King? Scorpion King is the alternate timeline Scorpius, who is the evil queen bee of Hogwarts. He bullies people and had Muggleborns locked away in the dungeons to be tortured. And his relationship with his father was even worse. Umbridge is even in charge of the school. Scorpius was horrified at this version of himself. He didn't want this reality. He may have gained respect and power over the entire school, but none of it mattered if Albus wasn't there by his side. And may I remind you, Snape said, "Listen to me, Scorpius. Think about Albus. You're giving up your kingdom for Albus, right?" He gives up everything to go back to Albus. And when he returns to his original timeline, he explains the rough edges of the story to Harry, Ginny, Draco, and McGonagall. Hermione and Ron weren't there. How in the fuck did Rose find out about the Scorpion King name? Calling him that should have made Scorpius physically ill. Also, why would she call him that? She made it sound like a pet name. She used to call him Breadhead. She's hated him this whole time. She literally just rejected going out with him. She hates him and pities him. She doesn't even like interacting with him. She avoids him on a daily basis. Why would she? Why would Albus support the... Oh, I'm getting heated. I'm just gonna repeat what Albus said to him. You know, logic would dictate that you're a freak. Rose hates you. Oh, God, now that I think about it, Albus had weird straight romance scenes in this play, too. With Delphi and his aunt. Does a man need an excuse to see his wife? He kisses Hermione firmly. I should go. He runs to block her before she enters through her door. Let me into my room, Ron. Let's have another baby. What? Or if not another baby, a holiday. I want a baby or a holiday, and I'm going to insist on it. A baby or a holiday? Some days you're off the scale, you know that? I don't know whether to high-five you or frown at you for kissing your aunt about 500 times. Ron, if you could get to the point before we all strangle you. He hasn't run away. He's having a quiet moment. He's got himself an older girlfriend. An older girlfriend? And a cracking one at that. Gorgeous silver hair. Saw them on the roof together, near the owlery with Scorpius playing the gooseberry. Nice to see my love potion being used well, I thought. I honestly thought I'd be the first of us to get a girlfriend. Oh, you will, undoubtedly. Probably that new smoky-eyed potions professor. She's old enough for you, right? I don't have a thing about older women. And you've got time, a lot of time, to seduce her. Because Rose is going to take years to persuade. Ugh. Excuse me, I think I just threw up in my mouth. Why? One of you three is a freak for writing this dysfunctional nonsense. This was your one easy opportunity to follow up, to take a chance and write a gay character, Rowling. It didn't even need to be crazy obvious. They could have just held hands or leaned in for a kiss that got interrupted at the end. I don't care. Whatever. Just a little something. Not only did you miss your chance, but you went against it. Your promises and aftermath headcanon speculations are worthless to us. If you don't plan to follow through with big reveals like this, you're just queer-baiting your audience, and I'm not standing for that. I am shocked by the sheer audacity of you. I'm encouraging everyone to make trans OCs to throw into this playwright in spite of her too. Go nuts. Rose Granger-Weasely. If any of you are confused as to why Rose and Hermione are a different race now, pause here for an explanation. Here you go, 3, 2, 1. After ranting about that last scene, what better character to talk about next, right? You see, Rose Granger-Weasely is often depicted as the third member of the Next Gen trio. I am here to tell you why this is unfortunately incorrect and not a good idea. Reason number 1. Rose Granger-Weasely is a complete and total bitch. Albus and Rose walk along the carriage of the train, one full of dread, the other full of excitement. Anything from the trolley days? Pumpkin pasty? Chocolate frog? Cauldron cake? Rose, spotting Albus's loving look at the chocolate frogs. Al, we need to concentrate. Concentrate on what? On who we choose to be friends with. My mom and dad met your dad on the first Hogwarts Express, you know. So we need to choose now who to be friends with for life? That's quite scary. On the contrary, it's exciting. I'm a Granger-Weasley, you're a Potter.
Everyone will want to be friends with us. We've got the pick of anyone we want.
So how do we decide which compartment to go in?
We rate them all and then make a decision. Albus opens the door to look in on a lonely blonde kid, Scorpius, in an otherwise empty compartment. Albus smiles. Scorpius smiles back.
Albus, my name is Albus. Hi, Scorpius. I'm Scorpius, you're Albus, I'm Scorpius, and you must be...
Rose's face is growing colder by the minute. Rose.
Hi, Rose. Would you like some of my fizzy whizbies?
I've just had breakfast, thanks.
I'll have some. Mom doesn't let me have sweets. Which one would you start with?
Rose hits Albus out of sight of Scorpius.
Rose hits him again. Rose, will you stop hitting me?
I'm not hitting you.
You are hitting me, and it hurts.
Scorpius's face falls.
She's hitting you because of me.
What?
Listen, I know who you are, so it's probably only fair you know who I am. You're Albus Potter, she's Rose Granger-Weasely, and I am Scorpius Malfoy. Our parents, they didn't get on.
That's putting it mildly. Your mom and dad are Death Eaters.
Dad was, but Mom wasn't.
Rose looks away, and Scorpius knows why she does.
I know what the rumor is, but it's a lie.
Albus looks from an uncomfortable Rose to a desperate Scorpius.
What is this rumor?
The rumor is that my parents couldn't have children. That my father and my grandmother were so desperate for a powerful heir to prevent the end of the Malfoy line that they used a time turner to send my mother back.
To send her where?
The rumor is that he's Voldemort's son, Albus. A horrible, uncomfortable silence. It's probably rubbish. Look, you've got a nose. The tension is slightly broken. Scorpius laughs, pathetically grateful. It's like my father's. I've got his nose, his hair, and his name. Not that that's a great thing either. Father-son issues, I have 'em. But on the whole, I'd rather be a Malfoy than, son of the Dark Lord. Scorpius and Albus look at each other, and something passes between them. Yes, well, we probably should sit somewhere else. Come on, Albus. Albus is thinking deeply.
No. I'm okay, you go on.
Albus, I won't wait.
I won't expect you to, but I'm staying here.
Rose looks at him a second and then leaves the compartment. Fine.
As soon as the train leaves, you don't have to talk to me.
I know. We just need to keep the pretense up in front of the grown-ups. Scorpius runs on, with big hopes and an even bigger case. Hi, Rose. Bye, Albus. She's melting.
Are you clapping for her too? We hate Quidditch, and she's playing for another house. She's your cousin, Albus. Do you think she'd clap for me?
I think she's brilliant. Albus! Albus! Albus turns decisively.
Who's told you you have to talk to me?
Okay, maybe your mom owled my dad, but only because she's worried about you. And I just think...
Leave me alone, Rose.
Scorpius is sitting in his usual compartment. Albus enters first, Rose still tailing him.
Albus! Oh, hello, Rose. What do you smell of?
What do I smell of?
No, I meant it as a nice thing. You smell like a mixture of fresh flowers and fresh... bread.
Albus, I'm here, okay, if you need me.
Nice bread, good bread. Bread? What's wrong with bread?
Rose walks away, shaking her head. What's wrong with bread?
She really doesn't like me, does she? When Rose came up to me today in potions and called me breadhead, I almost hugged her. No, there's no almost about it. I actually tried to hug her, and then she kicked me in the shin.
What a bitch.
Reason number 2. Albus and Scorpius have many things in common. They are outcasts, they have daddy issues, they're adorable geeks, they have low self-esteem, and are both Slytherins. Rose is none of these things. She's not an underdog like them. She is essentially Hermione 2.0, but worse. Reason number 3, forced heterosexuality between a dysfunctional pair of people is annoying. And even if they were functional, Rose would have stolen Albus's best and only friend. He'd be third wheel. It would just not work. Rose is not the final trio member. Delphi is. Delphini Diggory. Actually, Delphini Rowell? Lestrange? Black? Riddle? She's working on it. Yes, Delphi is a Mary Sue OC and this play is written like a fanfiction, but hear me out. The potential of this character works. Her plot twist doesn't.
Okay, so Voldemort is most likely an Aero ace. So having a child is not something anyone expected, let alone believed to be plausible. I mean, look, I don't want to think about Voldemort doing the nasty any more than you do. Especially with Bellatrix of all people. Blech. But I actually can see it happening only for the sake of insurance. Voldemort was all about magical blood and being the Slytherin heir, so in the event of his demise in the war, he had Delphi to carry on Salazar Slytherin's bloodline and perchance even avenge him. He knew Harry was hunting Horcruxes at this point, so Delphi was his backup plan. Bellatrix was the only person he found worthy to contribute genes from, seeing as she comes from a noble line and is also sort of his right-hand woman, so he probably put up with her for one night, no feelings attached on his end? Or maybe they used test tubes or something? I don't know, and I don't want to know. Delphi is clearly an afterthought plot point for the sake of villain convenience for the play, but otherwise I think she could fit. It's not as far-fetched as many would believe considering the circumstances. But now that that's been established, just who is Delphi? Hello. Albus jumps a mile as Delphi, 20-something, determined, and quirky, is revealed, looking through the stairs at him. Oh, sorry. Didn't mean to startle. I used to be a big stair listener myself, sitting there, waiting for someone to say something the tiniest bit interesting. Who are you? Because this is sort of my house, and I'm a thief, of course. I'm about to steal everything you own. Give me your gold, your wand, and your chocolate frogs. She looks fierce and then smiles. Either that, or I'm Delphini Diggory. She ascends the stairs and sticks out a hand. Delphi, I look after him. Amos, well, I try. And you are? Albus. Of course, Albus Potter. So Harry is your dad? That's a bit of a wow, isn't it? Not really. Ah, have I put my foot in it? It's what they used to say about me in school. Delphini Diggory. There isn't a hole she couldn't dig herself into. They do all sorts with my name too. We don't choose who we're related to. Amos isn't just my patient. He's my uncle. It's part of the reason I took the job at Upper Flagley. But that's made it difficult. It's tough to live with people stuck in the past, isn't it? Upper Flagley? St. Oswald's home for old witches and wizards. Come see us sometime, if you like. Delphi! She smiles and then trips as she travels down the stairs. I've never been to Hogwarts. Pretty lax security around here, isn't there? And so many portraits and corridors and ghosts. This half-headless, strange-looking ghost told me where I could find you. Can you believe that? You've never been to Hogwarts? I was unwell as a child for a few years. Other people got to go. I did not. You were too ill? I'm sorry, I didn't know that. I don't advertise the fact. I prefer not to be seen as a tragic case, you know? You know, I didn't have a best friend when I was your age. I wanted one, desperately. When I was younger, I even invented one, but I had one of those too, called Flurry. We fell out over the correct rules of gobstones. Oh, nice mark. What? Delphi's cloak has loosened. An Audrey tattoo is visible on the back of her neck. On your back. I hadn't noticed it before. The wings. Is that what the Muggles call a tattoo? Oh, yes. Well, it's an Audrey. An Audrey? Haven't you met them in Care of Magical Creatures? They're sinister-looking blackbirds that cry when rain's coming. Wizards used to believe that the Audrey's cry foretold death. When I was growing up, my guardian kept one in a cage. Your guardian? Delphi looks at Scorpius. Now she has the time turner. She's enjoying the game of this. She used to say it was crying because it could see I was going to come to a sticky end. She didn't like me much. Euphemia Rowell. She only took me in for the gold. Why would you want a tattoo of her bird then? It reminds me that the future is mine to make. If you were my daughter, I'd know of you. I am from the future, the child of Bellatrix Lestrange and you. I was born in Malfoy Manor before the Battle of Hogwarts, a battle you are going to lose. I have come to save you. It was Rodolphus Lestrange, Bellatrix's loyal husband, who on return from Azkaban told me who I was and revealed the prophecy he thought I was destined to fulfill. I am your daughter, sir.
Delphini is an orphan whose parents were killed in the war. She was taken in by distant relatives out of obligation that wanted nothing to do with her. They isolated her and treated her like garbage. It isn't until later that someone finally barges into her house and informs her of who her real parents were and the power she wields as a witch. It is then she is able to venture out into the world on an adventure while putting up with fame, making enemies and new friends, all the while carrying emotional distress in her mind to boot. Now turn little Delphi into a boy with black hair, glasses, and a scar, and who do you get? Harry Potter. Harry and Delphi are kindred souls. Euphemia said Delphini would meet a sticky end, just as Lucius had said to Harry Potter, for Christ's sake. Delphi's story is parallel to that of Harry's, just as Albus's is to Tom Riddle's. Harry is also Delphini's donor father, because his blood was used in the ritual to resurrect Voldemort. Unfortunately, this means she's related to Peter Pettigrew as well, but we don't talk about that. Lestrange is to Hagrid as Euphemia is to the Dursleys. Voldemort, or whoever decided to send her to the Rowls, would be Dumbledore, and Harry would, could, and should be her Sirius. A father figure who knew her blood father well, who would raise and support her, and maybe at times struggles to separate her from her parents, despite her being her own person. Everyone expected Albus and Scorpius to be like their fathers. They weren't. Why should Delphi be any different? Delphi, unlike her parents, is sane. She's cunning, smart, supportive, and also, unlike her parents, knows what love and friendship is despite never having it herself. You're best friends. Every owl he sends, I can feel your absence. He's destroyed by it. Albus needs you, Scorpius. That's a wonderful thing. He needs me to do what? That's the thing, isn't it? About friendships. You don't know what he needs. You only know he needs it. Delphi, unlike her father, is shockingly trusting and faithful. She's weaponized it. She's weaponized her library. This is where the time turner will be. Solve the riddle and we'll find it. She approaches the bookcase and then is surprised as it tries to swallow her. Albus! Albus rushes towards the bookcase, but it is too late and she's swallowed whole. Delphi, what's going on? Concentrate, Albus. Do what she said. Find a book on Dementors and be very careful. Delphi plunges through the books, back as herself. Work faster! She's pulled back in, screaming. Delphi! Delphi! He tries to grab her hand, but she's gone. Suddenly there's a smashing, and Albus and Delphi fall out of the shelves and down to the floor. Wow, quite a ride! Her inaction is passed off as, because she can't interfere with the prophecy. But the sheer patience and faith she had in Albus and Scorpius to mess with time with extremely subtle pushes and support is astounding. It's impressive. Delphi invites Albus to visit her in Amos, but doesn't say anything about saving Cedric Diggory. Albus comes to her with the idea. When Scorpius refuses to allow Delphi to join them, she is angry and hurt, but in the end she settles down, smiles, and wishes them luck while entrusting this task to them. Scorpius looks at her and then at Albus. You shouldn't come. What? You're right. We don't need you for the spell, and if you can't wear student robes, you're too big a risk. Sorry, Delphi, you shouldn't come. But I have to. He's my cousin. Albus? I think he's right. I'm sorry. What? But we won't mess up. But without me, you won't be able to work the time turner. You taught us how to use the time turner. Delphi is really upset. No, I won't let you do this. You told your uncle to trust us. Now it's your turn. The school is closed now. We should leave you here. Delphi looks at them both and takes a deep breath. She nods to herself and smiles. Then go. But just know this. Today, you get an opportunity few are given. Today, you get to change history, to change time itself. But more than all that, today, you get the chance to give an old man his son back. She smiles. And when Albus and Scorpius want to destroy the time turner and refuse to save Cedric, Delphi is understanding and says they can explain everything to Amos Diggory together. She becomes pen pals with Albus and teaches him spells. And she confronts Scorpius when he and Al aren't talking because she realizes how much these two mean to each other. She even realizes that the thing that will hurt Albus the most is if something happened to Scorpius. And when Scorpius tells Delphi that prophecies can be broken,
She actually takes it to heart and goes back in time to stop her father from killing Harry. They think she'll kill Harry in his stead, but she actually says she wouldn't do that, thinking the death of Harry Potter in any way is far too risky. Knowing who her bloodthirsty parents are, this makes her mentally superior to them. It may even be the slightest hint of morality in her. Delphi is a normal, incredible character and potential friend until the big reveal. She goes from a quirky, smart, compassionate friend who can fail to sudden psychopath who kills a random kid, snaps Albus and Scorpius's wands, then tortures them with Crucio and abandons them in time. Like, whoa. 180 much? She didn't even know who her real parents were until her teens. She's never met them. She's only ever heard stories. Delphi didn't know her father was Voldemort until her teen years, and yet she can fly without a broom and says,
"Ah, brooms. Such unwieldy, unnecessary objects."
In the books, Voldemort is the one to discover broomless flight. If he wasn't around, how did Delphi learn it? You telling me one day she just floated away? Since when is broomless flight an inherited blood skill? She pledges her allegiance to Voldemort before she can even meet him. She is so desperate to get him to accept her. Scorpius told her in a separate timeline she was the Augury. Or Audrey, I don't know how to pronounce this. Voldemort's right-hand servant. Fierce, powerful, and cruel. The world sucks, people are tortured, and she hears this and she's like, I want that future. Like, what? Harry Potter had complicated feelings for Dumbledore after he found out who the old man really was and the amount of manipulations and pain he put him through. He was still mad at Dumbledore for sending him off to the Dursleys and keeping so much information from him. Why would Delphi blindly pledge allegiance to her insane, sociopathic father who sent her to live with the terrible Rowls? Delphi is desperate for love and acceptance, to the point where she begs Harry Potter to kill her or wipe her memory of who she is so she can forget it all. But Voldemort would never give her the love, affection, and family she craves. I only wanted to know my father. You can't remake your life. You'll always be an orphan. That never leaves you. Just let me see him. I can't and I won't. Then kill me. I can't do that either. What? Dad, she's dangerous. No, Albus, but she's a murderer. I've seen her murder. Yes, Albus, she's a murderer, but we're not. We have to be better than them. Yeah, it's annoying, but it's what we've learnt. Take my mind, take my memory, make me forget who I am. No, we'll take you back to our time. And you'll go to Azkaban, same as your mother, where you'll rot. Albus, Scorpius, and Harry would be more of a family to her than Voldemort. She should have been smart enough to see that. Delphi should not have been the villain of this play. I demand her redemption. Now, just because she won't be the final villain of the play doesn't mean she's perfect. She grew up with the Rowls after all, pureblood, radical racist Death Eaters. Delphi would have grown up around prejudice and dark magic. She never went to Hogwarts, so as far as I'm concerned, she's like a locked-away Rapunzel who thinks Muggleborns are feral animals out to get her. If she met Muggleborns through Albus and Scorpius, or even through Hogwarts, since she managed to sneak in, I think she'd realize everything she was taught by the Rowls about Muggles is false. I think she could reform. I mean, this supposedly takes place in the 2020s. Our current year, Muggle technology should be insanely advanced right now. Can you imagine Muggleborns bringing phones to school? Delphi is like a 20-something quirky girl who ships her friends. You put a phone in her hand and she will weld it to her fingers so you couldn't ever steal it from her. She'd immediately come to respect Muggles and their tech. I'm sure of it. Earlier, I said Rose shouldn't be the next-gen third wheel, and that Delphi is more suited for it. See, Delphi was homeschooled, so she never had a proper social status. She has daddy issues, she too is a bit of a geeky weirdo, and she's often humble, clumsy, and insecure. She is also a descendant of Slytherin herself. She fits all criteria to be part of the trio. Now, the complication is Delphini has never studied at Hogwarts, and she's 10 years older than the boys. But I don't see why that should stop them. She snuck into Hogwarts once, I don't see why she can't do it again and join the roster for a 6th or 7th year. She could probably pull it off. Very Slytherin-like of her. Or she could claim she had a lack of education. Why wouldn't Hogwarts let her in? Who better than the very heir of Slytherin to take back the house and reshape it for the future? And Albus Potter may have had a crush on her at some point, but he has a more romantic relationship with Scorpius. Honestly, if Albus and Scorpius are bi or gay, make Delphi a lesbian. Or pan. Fuck it, right? Harry Potter and the gay descendants. Fight me, Rowling, you coward. Also, having Delphi as third-wheeled wingman is frickin' hilarious. So, how do we fix it? I feel like almost every aspect of this play needs to be tossed, but we're gonna try to work around it. Make Scorbus canon, obviously. Set this weird baby blanket on fire and delete it from existence. Add Teddy Lupin into the play. He should be prominent and present. The whole Scorpius is Voldemort's secret child plot doesn't make sense and can just be replaced with Death Eater spawn and it would serve the same purpose. Scrap the timeline plot, it's a mess. Or actually, if you already keep a time turner plot, don't let it follow through. Make it a dimension hopping or reality warping kind of device, but don't actually go back and screw with the timeline. Have either Lestrange, Rowell, or Amos Diggory be the bad guys in the play. Some old loyal Death Eaters want to bring back Voldemort, so they make contact with Amos and manipulate him into getting his money and connections to create a unique time turner. Amos makes a deal with them. If he saves Voldemort, they save his son, and he's so old and senile he's not thinking straight. Obviously, they don't plan to make good on this deal, and if things go south, they're gonna kill him. In the end, bad guys are defeated, he loses, etc. As punishment, Harry and the others might erase his memory, or maybe he gets dementia by the end of this. And perhaps Delphi, with no family, actually takes pity on him and decides to become his true caretaker, and therefore will actually become Delphini Diggory. She's actually earned the name instead of stealing it. She might be able to give this old man a semblance of peace in his final years of life until he can see his son again. I think it'd be a bittersweet ending that way. Or maybe turn it into a plot of alchemy, where new Muggle technology is being introduced into the Harry Potter universe. Schools like Hogwarts are getting updated with electrical systems instead of relying on fire to light up their rooms. Maybe new TV screens. Maybe Muggle kids sneak in phones and figure out how to get them to connect within the thick walls of Hogwarts. What if purebloods hate this new introduction of technology because it's outdating the Owls and Howler letters? What if they realize Muggles are now a threat more than ever? What if this new merging of technology exposes the wizarding world to the Muggle world in unique and dangerous ways? You could take a plot like this far. This adaptation is set in the future after all. Shouldn't it reflect that? Make Rose a slightly better person? What else? It's tricky. These characters can take so many different paths. This story can be almost anything. And unfortunately, the writers realized Harry Potter just isn't Harry Potter without Voldemort. So Voldemort is brought back through flashbacks or new side stories and then was replaced by essentially a Voldemort Jr. But you know, I kind of wish they'd actually step up to the challenge of attempting to make a Harry Potter play without Voldemort at all. And a big problem with this play, the first section is really dry. It's boring, almost nothing happens. Just a setup for the two main characters being losers at school. Play pacing is always troublesome, so I don't know if I could do it right, but I can't help but feel somehow this could all be fixed. But I don't know how for sure. How would you guys fix it? Let me know in the comments. I'd like to read what you guys come up with. Thanks to all my patrons for supporting the making of this video. If you join any tier as a patron, you get to join the Discord, where I seem to update people quicker and more frequently than on the actual website. Apologies. I hope to have more updates on Patreon to keep non-Discordees in the loop. And guess what? Whoop-bam! I've got not one, but two adorable drawings to feature. Shout out to Mallowmug and ArtyMarty12 on Instagram. Ah, I love seeing me drawn in everyone's different styles. Thank you guys. I promise I will get around to reading the Harry Potter series in full. Eventually. Anyhow, see you in the next video. Love y'all. Bye-bye.